is the submissive CEO. Power under God. Leadership under authority. Building empires through obedience. Strong in business. Surrendered in spirit. Walking by faith, not by trends. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Submissive CEO. I am really glad you're here. My name is Luigi. If this is your first time listening, this space is for those of us who are building something real with God, trying to do life, business, lead well, and still stay aligned with Him in the process. And today, I just want to talk to you all very simply, no pressure or anything like that, but just conversation about boldness. Not the kind of boldness that feels forced, not a fake it till you make it type of situation. I'm not talking about being loud or performative either, but the kind that just feels steady, that feels grounded, and the kind of boldness that comes from knowing that if God gave this to me, then I am allowed to walk it out. So something I've been thinking about is this. A lot of you are actually in a really good place right now. You've been praying, you've been seeking God, you've been trying to move in the right way. And if you're honest, you're not as lost as you sometimes feel or sometimes that we lead ourselves to think that we are. We have ideas, we have direction, we have, the things that keep coming back to us, even when we try to ignore it, even when we try to delay it, it just stays in the back of your mind. It's something that for me anyways, I have things that will wake me up at 2:00 in the morning because they are just so heavy on my heart or heavy in my mind. I just can't put them to the side, even though I try. And usually that's how God works. He doesn't always shout. Sometimes he just places something on your heart and it won't leave. Like this podcast, it took me about 2 years to do. So perfect example of that in this episode. I'm not going to be telling you to do more of this or do more of that, this is just going to be a reminder today. Just reminding you that you might already have what you need to take the next step. And I get it because, like I said, I've had moments like this as well, where I knew what God was nudging me to do and I still paused. Not because I didn't believe Him, but because I was thinking, can I actually carry this out the way it needs to be carried? It's kind of like I didn't believe in myself, really. And that's what it came down to. And the real question is, obedience sounds good until it requires movement, okay? Until it requires your faith to activate. So the question is really, why are you hesitating? Is it that you're truly looking for more information, or is it that your faith just hasn't caught up yet? And what it does is it requires you to actually show up, to speak up and speak out about whatever it is. And this is where boldness is going to come in, not as pressure, but seeing it as partnership with God. So there's a story in the Bible that I think about when I think of things like this, when I think about being bold. And it's in Matthew 14, verse 28 to 29. So this is the moment, and some of you may know this story, but where Peter sees Jesus walking on water, and Peter says, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." And Jesus says but one word, "Come." That's it. No full plan, no step-by-step breakdown, no guarantee of how it's going to feel or what to do next. Just come. And Peter had a decision to make. Stay in the boat where it's safe and predictable, okay, or step out based on one word from Jesus. And that's what I love about this story, you guys, is that Peter doesn't wait until he felt completely ready. He didn't say, "Jesus, can you explain how this is going to work first?" He didn't ask for 3 confirmations. He literally heard the word and he moved. Now that is boldness. I have to tell you guys, Peter is a lot better than me, okay? Because the questions I would have had, listen, you guys, Jesus would have been sick of me. When I tell you sick of me, he probably would have been like, "You know what? Just go ahead and stay on the boat. Stay over there because this is too much. At this point, the wind done died down. You missed the point. Just stay over there," because I would have had questions, you guys. I would have needed to know things like, okay, so when I step out, is it going to work immediately? Do I have to do something more? Which foot am I supposed to step out with first? Like, I have questions. Is there a weight capacity to this, Jesus? Because how much weight does the water hold? Like, what about the surface tension? I have questions. He over there floating, but we are not the same size. What? I would just have questions, you guys. And I am telling you, the Lord would probably have been sick of me. So Peter is a real one for that. He moved in authority. He moved in the boldness. And, yep, he did falter and fumble afterwards when he started getting distracted. But can you imagine, the strength that it takes for you to get out of that boat and to take the first step? That is the boldness that we are talking about today. And if we're being real, a lot of what God is asking us to do in business feels like that a lot of the times. It's not always fully mapped out. It doesn't always feel comfortable, and it doesn't always make sense to everybody else. But you have that moment where God told me to step, and you have to make a decision. And if you know that in your heart, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You've had those moments, like, deep down, like, yeah, you know what? I do have some things where God has asked me to do. Boldness looks like saying, okay, saying, yes, I'm going. It's accepting. It's the willingness. It's having the heart posture to say, Lord, I trust you in this. Even if your voice is shaking a little bit while you do it, or even if you have to double check it one more time, or you have to take a deep breath right before you execute. This is what I want you to understand. Peter didn't walk on the water because he was confident in the water. He walked on water because he trusted who told him to come. And that's the same thing for you. This is the same energy you need to have. You're not confident in every part of your business yet. I'm not confident. And I've been doing business for a little while now. I'm still learning. We're still growing. We're still figuring things out. But your boldness doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing God is with me in this. And you guys have heard the saying before. If God be for me, who can be against me? And we have to lean into that. So now, boldness can look very practical, very everyday as you practice it more, as you lean into it, as you start to just claim that authority for yourself. And it looks like it could be something simple, such as finally sending that email. Not perfect. It doesn't have to be over edited, not 17 chat GPT versions later. Just send the email. Boldness will look like saying your price clearly in business and not shrinking it or apologizing for it. You can literally just say, this is the investment that it costs to do business with me, that it costs for my service, that it costs for my product, and letting that be enough. You do not need to say your price and then give somebody a 5-minute PowerPoint presentation and explanation as to why they should agree that you are worth whatever that price is. You have done your research. You have fair pricing. You know what you're worth. You know what you're bringing to the table. You state your price clearly and you stand on it. You show up in the rooms and you speak as if you belong. Instead of overthinking about how you're being perceived, you just take a breath and remind yourself that I am here on purpose. I am here on assignment even. Do you guys know how many times we go into places and we are thinking about, oh my goodness, this person is thinking this about me, or that person looked at me and they probably think this. And half the time, I want to dare to say more than half the time, that person has no clue, none at all, what you're even thinking. They're not even paying attention to you. They might not even have noticed that you walked in the room because they are so worried about their own insecurity and their own thoughts and their own problems. So half the time we're doing it to ourselves, guys. So yeah, walk into those rooms like you belong because you do. Sometimes boldness looks like having a conversation you've been avoiding, setting boundaries, saying no when something doesn't align or it doesn't feel good. And none of that requires you to become a completely different person. It just requires you to trust God, a little more than you trust your hesitation or your doubts. Because if we're honest, the hesitation will be the one to always have you saying something like, okay, you need more time or you need more information. And what if it doesn't work? Having all that doubt. And sometimes when and I'm saying we because I am heavy on the overanalyzing, I need to think of 17 ways that it's going to go wrong before I move. Okay. So myself included on this, but that hesitation sometimes will talk us out of our own blessing. We have to have wisdom. We have to have discernment in these things. And there's a difference between wisdom and delay. And I think you know the difference that I'm talking about. So when you are being wise and you're just doing your research about a particular thing, that's okay. You want to be informed. But when you are just delaying because you're afraid or you're unsure or you're not ready to move, that's the difference. That's the hesitation that I'm talking about. Those are the areas where we need to be a little bit more bold. Okay. So here is something simple I want you to carry out with you this week. The next time you feel yourself pausing or hesitating, ask yourself, did God already give me direction in this? Do I already know what I'm supposed to do here? And if the answer is yes, take one step. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to have the whole plan worked out, but just take the next small step. Honestly, even if the next step is a big step, take it anyways. Take it in faith. Step out of the boat in faith. Because a lot of the time, God meets you in the movement, not just in the thinking. I can be witness to that when you take that first step, God will grab your hand and take off running, okay? He just needs that first step. You're not even going to have time to stop for water, okay? He just be waiting to see, like, do you believe me? Are you bold enough in your faith to do what I've called you to do? And sometimes that's all you have to do is take the first step and he got you after that. You have to have radical faith in Jesus sometimes, okay? Because God will have you doing things that you don't even understand yourself. But that's okay because it's not for us to understand. It's for us to believe and to have faith. And I'll share a personal story with you. There was about a year ago, God was telling me to leave the position I was in. And as some of you know, I'm a nurse. I was a nurse manager in this position. And by all accounts, this was a great job, you guys. I had a great team. The job was good because I was mostly remote. I was in management. I was doing something that I enjoyed. And of course, entrepreneurship is my preference. That is where my heart lies. I love being an entrepreneur. But this was my steady, my steady money. This was my salary. This is what paid my mortgage. And I liked the job for all accounts. Those that are in nursing, they know what I mean when I say this is the type of job you could retire here and be okay. I mean, it was still stressful. Absolutely. Anything having to do with the medical field. Oh my goodness. The stress is through the roof, but it was manageable. I've had many different positions in my career as a nurse, and this one was one I felt good about. But then God started nudging me to leave. And not just a nudge, he made it specific, the date I was supposed to leave. And of course, at that time, I'm in the middle of a bunch of financial things. I'm refinancing my house. I'm doing all these things. And if you know, it does not make sense for you to leave a job in the middle of refinancing your house or doing anything really. And I've literally had to stop all of those processes. And I did leave that job. I was supposed to leave by a specific date. And I left one day before just to make sure, because I was like, I don't know if you meant on or before, Lord, but I'm going to go ahead and cover it and leave the day before. And everything tried to get me to leave, a month later, 2 months later, can you give it 2 more weeks, all these different things. But I had to be bold and stick to that. And I remember calling a friend of mine like, hey, who is a pastor and a prophet. And I said, hey, God is really pushing me to leave. And said I'm supposed to leave by this date, but I'm just trying to think, if I stick it out just 2 more months later, I'm still going to leave, but I'll be in a better financial position if I leave, 2 months later. And she basically is the one that told me that, hey, partial obedience is still disobedience, sis. And then she told me she had nothing else to tell me because God has already spoken to me. So me looking for her to confirm what I already knew was pointless. She literally told me, I have nothing else for you. You already know what you're supposed to do. So he's already told you what you're supposed to do. So why are you calling me for another confirmation? And I'm like, oh my goodness, because here I am looking for 17 confirmations from people. I need somebody to call me to say they had a dream and this is what God said. And, I need to turn on YouTube and one of my favorite pastors needs to say, God told you to leave your job. So that way I would know it's real. I would know it's real. And I know that doesn't make sense. And I'm laughing about it now. But you guys, I was stressed out. I was really stressed out. And needless to say, I left the job. Okay. I left the job and I was thinking, did I make the right decision? But I left and I left before the time I was told to leave, literally like one day before. And I have to say, I have not wanted or needed for anything in the past year. I have not felt like I was lacking in anything. Of course, I had a great salaried position, but God has kept me this entire time. Okay, He has kept me. So I just wanted to share that with you so that you can be encouraged. And I want you to leave this episode feeling that you can do exactly what it is that God has asked you to do because He has equipped you for it, even if you don't see it yet. God is not going to lead you to something and then just be like, okay, yep, figure it out, go on ahead. And He sees your heart, He sees your willingness, you know, and you can do it not because you're perfect and not because you have it all figured out, but because you're not doing it alone. You don't have to be afraid of getting it wrong. You don't have to wait until you feel 100% confident. You don't have to over prepare every single step. You can move with Him. And even if it feels a little unfamiliar, even if it stretches you or it grows you in ways that you didn't expect, nor did you really want, you'll look up one day and realize, I have been walking in something that I used to be afraid of. You guys, I am literally living my prayers. These are my answered prayers. So this week, I just want you guys to take this step, start the thing, post the thing, send it, say it, whatever it is that's on your heart and mind that you're supposed to do, because you're not here figuring it out by yourself. You're being led. And a question that I'll leave you with for this week, just for your own reflection, is this. What is one step you know that it's time to take and you're ready to move on and move forward with this week? Don't overthink it. Just move on it this week. And whatever that thing that just popped into your mind after I said that is probably the thing. Okay. So you guys know I always want to leave you blessed. So just a short prayer before we close up. Father, thank you for the clarity you've already given. Give us the courage to move with you, not ahead of you and not behind you. Help us to trust you enough to take the next step with peace and confidence. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, you guys, if this encouraged you, please send it to someone who needs this reminder that you don't have to be afraid to walk in what God gave you. Follow, subscribe, all of the things. The feedback I have been getting from you guys has really warmed my heart. I really didn't think that it would do so much and that it would have so much impact on people. So I'm just super, super humbled, super grateful, that God would have me on this journey to be able to, share my experiences as an entrepreneur and to be able to share His word. I'm really happy about it, and I'm glad that it's resonating with people. Again, keep the comments coming. If you guys have topics that you want to hear, please reach out to me or put it in the comments. The website is up now, so it is www.thesubmissiveceo.com, and on there you can find all of the platforms that we are on. You can find our social media. There is also information about being a guest on the show, and things like that. So please feel free to take a look. Let me know what your thoughts are. Leave me any ideas or things like that you want. I'm just so happy to be building community with you all. And I'm just happy that you are here. And I will see you on the next episode of The Submissive CEO.
This is the Submissive CEO.